Hey folks, welcome back to Biz Talk. My name is Rick Gutierrez, and we've been having a great conversation with Greg Schaefer, the owner and founder of vCISOs Services LLC. And we're going to continue that conversation because, man, we just a lot of great information that can help our viewers and business owners, business professionals in terms of, information security and how important it is to have that and have an expert on your side. So, Greg, we're going to continue our conversation, and it's in terms of, the small and mid-sized businesses, often face quite unique challenges when it comes to information security. What are some of the common vulnerabilities, you encounter with your clients, and how do you help them address these issues effectively?
Well, I think one of the items is that they don't have a method for logging or viewing the logs of their systems. And why that's important is that if you can't have visibility into what's going on with your systems, you may miss an instance where somebody's trying to penetrate into the systems, or that information is being exfiltrated or transferred without authorization. Or sometimes they do, like a lot of SMB, small and mid-sized businesses, they'll use Microsoft 365. It has some pretty decent logging features, but people don't know how to use that. Um, they also sometimes don't understand the need for a security program. Sometimes they see it as an impediment to their business, or maybe just a strict compliance issue. Um, and of course, there's always the big issue that they have, and that's like a lack of a budget for information security. And that can be a big deal. And that's understandable because particularly the smaller business, and when you're talking about startups, they're going to have like really, really small margins. And they're trying to control costs as much as possible because they want to take the profits that they earn and put it back into the business itself. So from our perspective, that's really where it starts. We have to be mindful of the budget of the organization along with their associated risk tolerance. Like a smaller business may have a higher risk tolerance, particularly again in the startup field, because, well, that's how you build businesses sometimes. And we need to be able to communicate with them exactly how the risks can meet or not meet their risk tolerances. And what we'll end up doing is that we'll work with them creatively to come up with, uh, I'll say, adequate controls to mitigate the risks as much as possible. But that's a lot of like jargon to say, to figure out strategies to make sure that things are still able to get done and while making it as safe as possible. Now, finally, and this gets back to the monitoring. Remember, I started the answer by talking about that sometimes SMBs don't have decent monitoring in place and they can't.
Mhm.
Well, then that transfers to your staff. Your staff becomes your eyes on the network, and we encourage the businesses to look at them that way, to encourage them to speak up if they see something odd, or even if they did something. Sometimes, Rick, if someone clicks on something, they're like, oh, I can't believe I did that. I don't want anybody to know. I don't want to make. And
Mhm.
that's human nature. It's
Right.
understandable. But if you can encourage the staff to look, we understand that people make mistakes. Everybody does. I do. Not too often, but I do. Um, but it's important to encourage that you make a mistake, report it, because then if there is an issue or if you see something odd, then we can address that proactively before it really does become a problem.
Absolutely. And then there's times to where the problem, gets uncovered and it comes from one particular unit, one particular computer, one keystroke or something like that. And then people would say, well, you clicked on something, and the response is typically, well, no, I didn't. Technically you did, otherwise this wouldn't be an issue. Somebody clicked
Right.
on
And you don't
something,
want the
right?
pointing of fingers. I
Yeah,
mean, that's not
exactly.
productive at all. So,
Exactly. With that being said, one of the other key things that I heard you say is the budget, the organization's budget for information security. I think, one of those things that most businesses are not realizing is how crucial it is to have a budget, to have these systems in place, to have someone on their side that is always looking out and keeping things, completely secured and only visible to themselves and not to the world. So I think that that budget is something that our viewers, our business owners need to be cognizant about and hire the right person, the right company, the right services, and have a budget set aside for this because it's crucial nowadays. With that being said, that kind of leads me to the other question, because of hiring, vendors to take care of some of those things, vendor risk is a big thing right now, and also it's crucial to the component of a very robust information security program. Greg, can you share some insights into how vCISO Services evaluates and mitigates risk associated with third-party vendors? Potentially maybe one of your clients that you've helped here recently?
Sure. The main thing that our clients that we emphasize to them is that just because you're using a third party to manage something, it could be your email or your file storing. Like for example, we talked about Microsoft 365. It doesn't absolve you of the responsibility to make sure that that information is secure. And that's why we have vendor risk management. And so what is that? That's making sure that the vendor that you're using is taking care of your information. And usually it starts with looking at a third-party attestation, an audit, if you will. Some people might have heard of the term SOC 2, for example. That's very, very common. So you look at the SOC 2, you see if there's any issues, and then the wise evaluator, the wise business, will want to look a little bit deeper to make sure, well, okay, does the supplier have good security policies in place, good training in place? Are they doing penetration tests, all these long words and all that? But at that point in time, if they can get an insurance that their information is being protected, then we always talk about that compliance doesn't equal security, but a good solid information security program will meet compliance with just about all the regulations and standards out there. That's what we encourage businesses to do. And I could say that I have one example, except for that we do this with every client that we are working with. So it's a fairly routine methodology to ensure that they understand, first of all, as I said in the beginning, that they're still responsible for the protection of their information. If Microsoft, for example, suffers a breach and you have something on SharePoint and that gets out, well, your customers are still going to hold you responsible. And then we work with the organizations to build up the vendor management program to make it less of a check the box exercise and more of a true risk management exercise.
Absolutely. I mean, it's something that we always have to keep be mindful of, and making sure that our information is, protected as much as possible. I mean, essentially, as a business owner, it is our responsibility to make sure that the information stays secure, but then hiring the right people to help you even further, I think that just kind of gives a different layer of protection overall. So, Greg, one of the other questions that we had from the last time that you were here, and we're going to dive in a little bit more into this, but let's say something happens, somebody hit the wrong key and or clicked on a link or something, and now we have an issue. Let's talk about disaster recovery, which is something that I don't wish upon nobody, nor anyone wants to go through, but it happens, right? So businesses need to continue, and the planning is essential for all of the organizations out there. Let's talk about a specific example of a time where vCISO Services helped one of your clients develop and implement comprehensive disaster recovery plan.
Sure. Well, in one instance, we're evaluating a business's business continuity plan first, and that's more of the risk management side of information security. And how does that relate to disaster recovery? Well, disaster recovery is the IT support portion of business continuity. IT makes sure that systems are brought up in an order or kept online in an order and in a priority that is commensurate with the needs of the business. So the business continuity plan will say we need to have this service available, and IT understands, okay, I need to make this happen, whether it be starting up another generator or bringing this system online or what have you. It's all specific to a particular business. Well, in this particular, the example I'm thinking of, it was with a credit union. We discovered that the IT department couldn't meet the business requirements of what we call recovery time objective, or RTO. So the RTO is essentially the measure of the amount of time that the business can be down without suffering significant losses, whether it be loss of income or reputational risk, those sorts of things. And so this is a bad thing. And you don't want to realize this when something actually does happen to cause businesses like a hurricane to shut down for a while. You want to make sure that you have this and understood at least in place. So what we ended up doing, because sometimes organizations just simply state a number because they have to have it in their business continuity plan, a number that, okay, our RTO is going to be we're fine 4 hours, and then after that things are bad, or we're fine for 4 days, and then after that things are bad. They just put down a number without understanding the actual implications from the IT side. So getting back to this example, this is for a credit union. And as a result, we changed a couple of things. First, we updated the recovery time. I think specifically for the credit union, it was their mortgage department. And we updated the recovery time objective, which then managed expectations. So the mortgage department, I don't know the exact numbers, but let's just say that the recovery time was 4 hours, but then we determined that realistically, because of IT limitations, it was actually 2 days. Well, this gave the mortgage department the ability to create additional processes just in case they had to be down for more than one business day. That was the short-term solution. Then the long-term solution was to help with IT and operations to come up with a process and a plan to bring that RTO back down to the desired level of 4 hours. And so the result, Rick, was that we had a stronger process without discovering the gap when an actual event happened.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a phenomenal way to take care of risk management and disaster recovery. I mean, it's an amazing opportunity to have you here on the show. Hey, we're getting close to the end of this segment, Greg, but I don't want to end this segment without giving you an opportunity to talk about your book, Information Security, and some of the key things, principles that you advocate on the book. What are those key principles?
So information security for small and mid-sized businesses. You can get it on Amazon, by the way. 5-star rating, solid.
Fantastic.
We encourage that businesses understand the differences between information security and cybersecurity. I kind of mentioned that a little bit beforehand, but there is a huge difference, cybersecurity being the technical part of information security. And this is important, as I mentioned before, because sometimes you have the impression that information security is only technical. And that's really not true. We also emphasize the importance of choosing a framework because just like you're building a house, you don't just start going out there with lumber and concrete and nails and just start going willy-nilly, and you're going to end up with something that doesn't look too good. You start with a plan, you start with a blueprint. That's what a framework is. We work with them to create a framework. The book talks about a couple of frameworks that SMBs can use out the gate, such as the NIST cybersecurity framework. And then finally, same thing that I've said beforehand, we promote information security as risk management. It's not a perfect field. You're never going to be completely secure. But in order to maximize the security, you need to become somewhat proficient in risk management or at least understand it. And that's what I really tried to do with the book, Information Security for Small and Mid-Sized Businesses.
Awesome. Thank you so much for going into that. I wanted to give you the space to go over their book. It's an amazing book, tons of information there, but it's one of those things to where the more knowledge that we have in front of us, the better off we're going to be. We talked about that a little bit. So Greg, I want to thank you so much for being on the show once again. A great information. You are a expert, with all the experience that you have, the decades of experience that you have. So we appreciate you being here, and we look forward to having you on the show again. Thank you so much for being here, Greg. All right, folks, we're going to end this show with a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.